recognize you, but I'm not afraid of you. Not anymore.
In Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the player can put on a Freddy mask to stop all the animatronics from attacking them, all of them apart from two, Foxy and the puppet. Now I've done an entire video why Foxy cannot be fooled, but the puppet? How can she see through the mask and the other animatronics cannot? Well, the real answer may completely shock you and is far more complex than I initially thought. Now immediately you might think that because the player is in the office, the puppet would know this, because the player has to be in the office to wind the music box up to keep the puppet locked away. And the puppet would know this, right? Well, wrong, because with that logic, all the other animatronics would also know that a player or person is in the office winding the music box up. But that isn't the case, because they are still fooled by the mask. Correct. So already this is far more complicated than we initially thought. Now we do know that Charlie, aka the puppet, refers to herself as far more away than the others.
The others are like animals, but I am very aware.
Giving us a hint that she is literally more away. So perhaps that is the reason why she is not fooled by this mask. She can just simply see straight through it. Because let's face it, it's literally just a guy sitting there putting a mask on.
You see? Just like my Freddy ad. You clearly see that's me, right? You know it's me.
Perhaps because she's more aware than them, she can see through the mask. Well, again, there's no real evidence to back that up. That statement doesn't refer to the mask at all. It just means she's more aware of supernatural behavior. So already that is two possible explanations out the window using logic. Well, as logical as you can be with FNAF anyway. Because let's face it, I'm sat here talking about haunted animatronics which are fooled by some random guy putting a mask over their face. But that's the key right there. It isn't some random guy putting a mask over his face. We play as two potential characters in FNAF 2, Jeremy Fitzgerald and Fritz Smith. I know they're Roxy and Freddy, but they're the only plushes I've got. Both of these characters have exactly the same interactions with the animatronic, Foxy and the puppet, meaning it isn't exclusive to one or the other. The puppet can see through the mask regardless of who's behind it. So does that mean then it doesn't really matter who we're playing as? The puppet can still see us? Well, no. I think this is the key here. It does matter who is behind that mask. You see, we know Charlie was killed by William Afton, right? We also know the likelihood is she's seen the bite of 83 and all the bullies with their masks on. So the chances here are she would know their faces hidden behind a mask or not. They were Mike's friends after all, she would have seen them. And regardless if she did see the bite of 83 or not, she knows Mike, she knows Mike's friends, she knows William Afton. So does that mean then we're playing as one of them three and that's why she recognizes them? Because this isn't as straightforward as we initially thought. You see, it wouldn't really make sense if she was attacking Mike just because she knew him. It would make sense if she's seen the bite of 83 and seen Mike kill the crying child. She would associate Mike with killing kids, right? That would make sense. That is if you believe Charlie's death comes before the bite of 83, not after. But I haven't got onto the happiest day minigame yet. But let's say she did see Mike kill his brother with the bite of 83. She would recognize his face, therefore she could probably see through the mask and know it's Mike and attack him outright, thinking he's a killer. Makes sense. But that only makes sense if the bite of 83 came before the death of Charlie by William Afton. Not to mention, that relies on Mike being the main antagonist of FNAF 2, when we know they were two people, Jeremy Fitzgerald and Fritz Smith. Now, what is extremely interesting here is Fritz Smith only turns up on night 7 of FNAF 2. We basically only play as him once. The entire duration, we play as Jeremy Fitzgerald, but the puppet still sees through both masks. Now, the thing about Fritz Smith is his notice of termination was listed as Oda, the same reason why Mike Schmidt in FNAF 1 was also terminated. And also, just like Mike from the first game, he's a competent technician, and he was also fired for tampering with the animatronics. And further to this, Fritz Smith is actually a combination of combining Jeremy Fitzgerald and Mike Schmidt's names, hence the Mike Schmidt. This leads nearly everybody in the community to believe that on this night, the custom night, night 7, we are playing as Mike. And Mike, as we know, is William Afton's son. And the likelihood is the puppet knows this, knew that Mike had killed the crying child, sees through the mask and attacks him. But then what about Jeremy Fitzgerald? Why is the puppet attacking attacking him and seemingly seeing through the mask. Well, if we look back at FNAF 3, there's the happiest day minigame. Now, in this minigame, the player controls a child wearing a mask that looks like the puppet, and if the player beats all 5 minigames throughout FNAF 3, there will be 4 children wearing Freddy, Chica, Foxy, and Bonnie masks to the left of a table. The crying child will be to the right of the table and will have a golden Freddy mask on, leaving you, the puppet, the 6th child. Running into the table will place a cake on the table, and all 5 children and the child that the player controlling will then disappear, and their masks will fall to the ground. This then triggers a unique star to appear on the main menu of the game, and a variable that signifies it's the good ending, and that you have realized the souls of William Afton's victims can finally rest in peace. Now, I know you're probably thinking, what has that got to do with Jeremy Fitzgerald and the puppet seeing through the mask? Well, everything, because that tells me that the puppet knew every victim of William Afton. They was there, they saw them all. Therefore, the puppet would know if their souls are in an animatronic or not. It also confirms that the puppet then would have known William Afton's other victims. Thus, when the puppet sees this person with a mask on, it knows it isn't a haunted animatronic or an animatronic moving after dark because it knows who the victims are. And this person behind the mask isn't one of them, and therefore it attacks. But we're not finished on Jeremy Fitzgerald. We'll come back to him in a second. Let's talk about Mike Schmidt, or as we know, Mike. The reason the puppet would attack Mike through the mask and not be fooled, again, is a similar reason. It knows it's not one of the victims. It also knows it's Mike, the guy who killed the crying child, and who's the son of the person who killed her. And the reason it can see through the mask is because, again, it knows it's not one of the haunted animatronics. And if you want even more proof, a third reason is the fact that all animatronics, including the puppet, who was actually a security puppet to keep predators out of the Pizzaplex, are fitted with facial recognition software, linking it to the police database.
They're all tied into some kind of criminal database so they can detect a predator a mile away.
Now, that doesn't mean Mike is a predator in a sense, but Phone Guy says that they're programmed to keep predators out and any previous employees.
From what I understand, the building is on lockdown. No one is allowed in or out, especially concerning any previous employees.
And this is where things get interesting, because Mike is a previous employee, and you might be thinking, well, how? Mike was in FNAF 1, which was 1993. Yep, he was. He's also in this one, which is 1987. And he was also the original guard who complained of unworkable conditions.
The first guy finished his week, but complained about conditions.
You see, before he comes back on night 7, the position became available in the first place because he was fired. And then Jeremy Fitzgerald takes his position. The Phone Guy basically confirms this. Hello? Hello?
When we get it all sorted out, we may move you to the day shift. A position just became available. We don't have a replacement for your shift yet.
He originally had the job there, got fired, but came back because he wanted to dismantle all the animatronics, trying to release the kids' souls. Hence why it says he was fired for tampering with the animatronics. And the puppet, being linked to the database and keeping past employees out and predators, sees his Mike, registers on his database, attacks. Even if you don't believe that theory, she would still attack based on the fact Mike killed the crying child and is William Afton's son, and is able to see through the mask because of the happiest day minigame, as I explained earlier. But there's still something off about Jeremy Fitzgerald. Sure, she would know that he isn't one of the haunted animatronics, and therefore would know that there's another person there, but why would she seemingly randomly attack another guard or human being without any reason? And this plays into all my other theories on security breach, Help Wanted. Now, if you've played Help Wanted, you will know that there was someone in that game called Jeremy. We also know the person we play as is called Jeremy, and later goes on to have his front lobe bitten out by one of the animatronics, becomes lobotomized, but still survives. What if this Jeremy Fitzgerald we play as is the original Bonnie Bully? That would make sense as to why the puppet recognizes him, sees through the mask, and attacks, because the Bonnie Bully was there when the crying child died, even helped Mike kill him. One of the achievements in Help Wanted 2 says, remember Jeremy, with retrieve a memory underneath, with a plushie with a Bonnie mask on top of it. Jeremy, Bonnie Bully. Now, I'm not going to go into full details on this because Absolutely Massive done a huge video on it in the past, but in a nutshell, the puppet sees through the mask because it sees the Bonnie Bully behind it. And I keep saying it, Jeremy, Jeremy Fitzgerald. Anger boils over, knowing it's not one of the animatronics and knowing it's one of the people who helped kill the crying child, attacks. And the real reason the puppet sees through the mask isn't because of the music box or this software. It's simply because it knew all the victims, knew this person sitting in the office wasn't one of them. The puppet goes in for a closer look, sees the purple uniform, and that there isn't a haunted animatronic behind that mask, attacks. So even though we play as two different people, I've solved both of them in this one theory video. Whew, that was a toughie, I gotta be honest, but I believe that's solved. And if you did really enjoy this, hit the like button, subscribe and share it with a friend. That way it'll help the channel to grow and it'll mean the world to me. And keep an eye out for your name to be featured in the upcoming videos by becoming a member. They'll be launching very soon. I'm Twisted from Twisted Animatronic. Stay safe out there, superstars. Completely messed my hair up as well. Great. Oh my god.